Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to build the scene where the hobbits are hiding from the ring wraith. Why am I doing this? Because it's a school project. Now I'll show you how to make it. I just want to start this project by measuring the size of the base we need. I just use the size of the hex wraith base to get about the size I want. Now we'll just cut it out using a sharpened Olfa knife. Now we're going to use this tool to make sure all the sides are exactly square and flat. This is a very important step. So that was the piece for the lower platform. Now we need to cut the piece for the upper platform. Use the same technique to cut it all out, just make this piece a little smaller. Now we just need to glue the pieces together. The next step is to sand it down so it feels like it's one piece and it's very smooth. Now we're going to use cheap dollar store foam core. We'll just cut out a piece that's the same size as the top. You'll see why we do that later. This part is a little more satisfying in 2x speed. Now we'll just glue the piece on with normal hot glue. Before we continue, I want to explain why I put the foam on. I wanted to make this look like an overhanging rock, kind of like the Lion King rock. So one part of this will be the road and the other part will be the overhanging rock. So we'll glue this piece in to make it an overhang. You won't be able to see that foam later. It'll just look like a rock. Now we'll cover the ground with some drywall stuff to give it more texture. I'm not sure if you'll need to do this, but I did it and it was fine. Now for a technique I rarely see, paper mache. We'll just cover the foam and all the gaps in paper mache to give it a rock-like texture. And I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Sorry for the crooked camera shots. Now is a good time to say, If you want to support me, there's a few things you can do. You could subscribe to my channel, like this video. If you want, follow me on Instagram under IronX Hobbies. Now, let's get back to the video. Now we're going to put paper mache stuff on the top for the rock. Now we're going to glue on some pebbles. Don't worry, it's not going to look like this in the final product, but this is an essential step to making the gravel look good. I was trying to make a snake out of green stuff, but that didn't work, so I came up with something better. I decided to make vines. But that was after a while of trying to make a snake, which really failed. I also filled in some more holes with the green stuff. After adding the vines, I added some aquarium plants. This was already built before, I just didn't have a use for it. Just cut up some aquarium plants. I have other videos on it if you want to go check them out, especially my sinking house build. And now for a weird part. We need to convert these hobbits from a standing to sitting position. That means cutting off all their limbs and replacing them in a sitting position using green stuff. It's quite fun, but takes a while when you do 4 of them, and it's a little annoying. Converting minis can be hard to learn. This is the first time I really converted anything. This is a very small conversion, and it didn't turn out amazing, but it does the job, and it looks good when painted. So don't be afraid to do this. By the way, these are just Whiz Kids halflings. They look like the hobbits and they're a really good match, so I used them. One of them had a lantern and I put it in, and I loved this part. Later I'll explain why I did it. It's probably my favorite part of the whole thing. Now for the bigger conversion. I had this extra hex wraith, and I noticed he kind of looks like a ring wraith. Same name. Still. So we cut off all things that look humanoid, or so his head, his arms, his legs. Some more cutting off body parts. Fun. But then we have to give him a green stuff cloak. I messed this up real bad, but at least when you paint it black, it takes away most of the detail, and it just looks fine. And I forgot to give ears to the horse, and hair. lot of this part is just trying to do something and failing and trying again until it looks good, and sometimes failure is just the process. To make it look like the cloak is in the shape of a face, I use a paper clip to shape the face and then put green stuff over it. Now we need to literally prime everything, which is including the foam on the base and everything, just to give it a better coat and so paint sticks to it better. Now to make the gravel look a little better, we'll add some real dirt on top of it to give it another real layer. Now it went from giant rocks to smaller rocks. Better move. Now just paint the ring wraith black, except for a few parts on the horse and other parts. And make the eyes red to be cool. It's so hard to highlight this mini because it looks like Play-Doh and there's not much parts for it to be highlighted except for the actual part GW made. But I tried my best and you can tell what it is. I'm not going into much detail about painting the hobbits because it'll make this video longer than it already is, and plenty of other people have covered just normal painting and they're not that hard to paint. Look at the color scheme and figure it out. I don't really have to explain the way I'm painting this diorama, just watch, it's not that hard, the colors are all there. There's not that much hard techniques to follow, so just follow along and you'll look at the colors.
In the sky.
Now we're going to do a quick dry brushing in white. Out of all the clean workspaces in the world, mine will never be one of them. And it only gets worse.
In the sky.
A dry brushing of a lighter brown. Let's put glue down on the floor so we can put grass on it. And maybe some shrubberies. Now we're going to put on a black wash over the actual stone to make it seem darker. Now let's paint the lantern. You could probably use the inverse square law for light. You can see other people's videos on that. But I didn't really think about it too much because I don't want to calculate that and all that stuff. But why did I add the light? So on the ring wraith side, I want it to be all dark and gloomy. But on the hobbit side, I want it to be dark, but like the lantern is lighting up. So there's light in the darkness. A very easy way to get light on minis is to do a dry brush, especially if it's not a display mini. And now I'm dry brushing it black to make it look darker. Now we're going to glue on cardstock to the edges. This was probably the hardest part out of everything because it wasn't smooth and had a lot of issues, but it worked out in the end. Now, paint the cardstock black. Satisfying. For the final thing, glue on the minis. Make sure none of them have bases on them.